First of all, I just want to say I'm alive, and you're all witnesses. Now that I dispatched this piece of fake news, I'm going to give you an update on Operation Roaring Lion.
Him laughing made me laugh. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at this man being fake live.
America and Israel are acting together.
I'm laughing at him saying he's alive.
With great determination and unprecedented strength. It is often said that you can't do revolutions from the air. That is true. You can't do it only from the air. You can do a lot of things from the air, and we're doing, but there has to be a ground component as well. There are many possibilities for this ground component, and I take the liberty of not sharing with you all those possibilities. I think that what has to be done is to have alternative routes. Instead of going through the choke points of the Hormuz Straits and the Bab el-Mandeb Straits, in order to have the flow of oil, just have oil pipelines going west through the Arabian Peninsula, right up to Israel, right up to our Mediterranean ports, and you've just done away with the choke points forever. These opening remarks with one other fake news, and that is that Israel somehow dragged the U.S. into a conflict with Iran. Does anyone really think that someone can tell President Trump what to do? Come on. President Trump always makes his decisions on what he thinks is good for America, and may I add, I think what is also good for future generations. Also wrote The Lessons of History, very brief, 100-page book, in which he said, well, history proves that, unfortunately and unhappily, Jesus Christ has no advantage over Genghis Khan.
Oh my God.
Because if you are strong enough, ruthless enough, powerful enough, evil will overcome good. Aggression will overcome moderation. So you have no choice. If you look at the world as it is today, you have to be blind not to see that the democracies led by the United States have to reassert their will to defend themselves and to oppose their enemies in time while there's still time, before the jarring gong of danger wakes them up and wakes them up too late. This is where we are now. The fact that people don't see that, the fact that a lot of the news media are harking on a lot of fake news, but also a lot of short-sightedness, and do not see the historic period and the historic struggle that we are engaged in now, doesn't obviate these truths.
Iranian oil, and do you intend to potentially put U.S. troops or more troops in the region?
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you, but I'm not putting troops, and we will do whatever is necessary to keep the price as low. I actually thought when I did this, look, the Dow just hit 50,000.
Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this panel show are those of the individual speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of this channel, its affiliates, sponsors, or production team. This content is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised. We encourage respectful dialogue and critical thinking around the topics discussed.
Party. Why I like the new party? Number one, it's a group of people that's on a panel. We all have differences, but we all basically still come together at the end of the day. The new party for me is about unity. The new party for me is about educating people to the truth, letting people know what's been going on in our country. With that being said, shout out to the new party, man. We're going to keep it going with y'all.
Welcome to the new party. I'm Nora Christine.
I'm Gray Mars.
I'm Kim.
I'm the favorite Enzo.
I'm Kamal.
And tonight on the new party, we are going to be talking about, is NATO going to be supporting the Iran war? Please make sure you guys do the poll. The poll we have is, should NATO fully support America on Iran? We are starting to see it teeter up and down. First, it was 67% yes. Now it's 58% yes. The no's are slowly going up. So at the start of this week, NATO said, we ain't want nothing to do with supporting this. We're going to break down why they first said that. But breaking news, you guys heard it here first. Netanyahu allegedly is still alive. That was a great AI video of the week. Allegedly, I don't know. They say he's alive. They say it's AI. I don't know what to think. I don't know. Let me know in the chat if you think that's AI. But nevertheless, the real breaking news is NATO is now announcing they will be supporting. Let's go.
In the last few minutes is that a joint statement has been released by the UK, also by France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands and Japan. And it's about the Strait of Hormuz. They are condemning in the strongest terms recent attacks by Iran on unarmed commercial vessels in the Gulf, attacks on civilian infrastructure, including oil and gas installations, and the de facto closure of the Strait of Hormuz by Iranian forces. The countries go on to say they express their deep concern about the escalating conflict. They call on Iran to cease immediately its threats, laying of mines, drone and missile attacks and other attempts to block the strait to commercial shipping, and to comply with UN Security Council Resolution 2817. They say freedom of navigation is a fundamental principle of international law, including under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, and the effect of Iran's actions will be felt by people in all parts of the world, especially the most vulnerable. They say that the interference constitutes a threat to international peace and security, and call for an immediate, comprehensive moratorium on attacks on civil infrastructure, including oil and gas installations. The countries say they're ready to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the strait. We welcome the commitment of nations who are engaging in preparatory planning, and that they welcome the International Energy Agency's decision to authorise a coordinated release of strategic petroleum reserves, and that they'll take other steps to stabilise energy markets, including working with certain producing nations to increase output. They're also going to work to support the most affected, including through the United Nations and IFIs. And then the letter closes with maritime security and freedom of navigation benefit all countries. We call on all states to respect international law and uphold the fundamental principles of international prosperity and security. Also, in the last few minutes, we've heard via the Reuters agency, 3 Israeli generals have told them that Israel's attack on Iran's South Pars gas field was coordinated with the US.
Okay, we're going to pause right there because that's an important piece of this story tonight. Trump kept going back and forth, y'all. Last night, Trump sent out a tweet. He said, we ain't know about it. We ain't got nothing to do with this. We told Israel they need to stop. So all of this started, guys. So we back up. Iran launched retaliatory strikes because initially Israel attacked them. They sent their retaliatory strikes to Qatar, and they hit the South Pars gas fields. And that's how all of this started, okay? This was started because Israel struck them first. They responded, but Trump said, we ain't want no parts of this. We ain't got nothing to do with this. Kim, why is Trump saying something different than what Israel's saying? Why is the backtrack?
Because Trump is the worst person to answer Netanyahu. Netanyahu asked, does anybody think anyone can tell Trump what to do? Yes. Trump is a bitch. They have his balls in their purse. He bends over for them. He's literally doing their bidding. He has an Israel handler. He's doing their fucking bidding because they have multi-billion-dollar deal with Saudi Arabia. So, Jesus Christ, I didn't know NATO had. I'm sorry if I didn't know. I think I've had 2 outbursts. I don't mean to be rude. I thought I was muted when I laughed, and then when I said shut the fuck up. Jesus Christ, what is going on? What's going on? I'm like, I don't know what to do. Should I move to Mexico now, or like, oh my God, it would be a huge mistake if NATO gets involved, because Iran was not provoked. Iran literally said they didn't want a fucking war. And here we are. So people are dying. This isn't funny. Trump's a bitch. Oh my God, I'm so upset.
Okay, so Kamal, Monday night, my homie Kelly asked you in the chat, do Black people care about this? NATO said at first they didn't care about this. Let me play this clip for you, Kamal. This is not necessarily have to do with FBA stuff, but this was NATO at the start of the week. This was what NATO was initially saying. Let's go.
The Middle East has nothing to do with NATO and is not a NATO war. That's the message from the office of the German Chancellor. For more on the mood among NATO allies, Euronews' correspondent Shona Murray sent us this update.
Well, good morning, Maeve. And just as we thought the turmoil from last January when Donald Trump said he wanted to take over Greenland was coming to an end, Donald Trump, it appears, is trying to draw NATO into his war with Iran, with comments at the weekend saying that NATO would face a very bad future if it doesn't support Donald Trump and help sort out the situation with the Strait of Hormuz. I caught up with the Finnish Foreign Affairs Minister, Elina Valtonen, and I asked her about this prospect.
NATO, first and foremost, its purpose is, as the North Atlantic Treaty says, for the North Atlantic security, and therefore that's our top priority. And also, NATO is a defensive alliance in any case. But having said all this, of course, we will be closely scrutinizing together with our partners and allies, so both in NATO but also in the European Union, whether there are ways in which we can help to both have the Strait of Hormuz open up, but also to make it secure going forward as well.
NATO is a defensive alliance, not an offensive alliance, so therefore it can't be dragged into a war of the United States and Israel's making. Is that what you're saying?
NATO is indeed a defensive alliance, and we won't be dragged into any war of choice. But having said all this, we, of course, have a collective interest, and I should say not only within NATO, but as the world, to have the oil flowing and also the situation to de-escalate. And that is certainly something we are calling for.
OK, so what's then the EU and I guess NATO, but let's say European response going to be to try to help reopen and keep open the Strait of Hormuz, given the impact it's having on the global economy and oil prices?
Yeah, so, today in Brussels, but also in the upcoming days, we will be discussing this with our closest partners and allies, so both within the European Union and in NATO, whether there should be some sort of an operation.
All right. Come on. Gas, oil prices spiked $119 per barrel due to fears of supply disruption. 20% of the world's oil supply passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Do you now think Black people shouldn't care about this? What do you think?
I'll say this. I say that most Black Americans don't give a fuck about this. I'm sorry. You feel me? Now, I'm one of the Black Americans that do care about the shit. You feel me? Because that gas is high as hell. The shit almost $6 over here in Dago. God damn. It is crazy. But to be honest, yeah, most Black folks, hell, I'm going to be honest with you. Most Americans probably ain't paying attention to this shit. You know why? Because they got to go to a fucking job. They don't pay enough to pay their fucking rent. They know that gas is going up, and they're like, I don't really know why, but shit, what the hell's going on? They can't pay attention to the shit. A lot of Americans got kids where daycare is like $1,000 a fucking every 2 weeks. So I think most Americans, like,
that's true.
They ain't really caring because they can't care. You feel what I'm saying? But for damn sure, a lot of Black Americans, and I'll be in these TikTok spaces and shit like that, we not talking about the Iran war and shit like that. Because we already going to war in America, goddammit. We've been in war for the fucking longest. You feel me? But some of us do, we care because we know that certain things is happening to bring up gas prices and shit, which is gonna bring up food prices. So I say some of us care, but a lot of us, we're not really caring about this because we have other things on our mind. You feel what I'm saying? So
all right. Well, that's you bring up some good points. This is what Trump said about NATO.
The NATO allies agreed with us, but they don't want to, despite the fact that we help them so much, we have thousands of soldiers in different countries all over the world, and they don't want to help us, which is amazing. I mean, amazing. And I didn't do a full court press because I think if I did, they probably would be. But we don't need help. We've that war has been long prosecuted as far as I'm concerned, almost from day one. We knocked out many of these things. We knocked out the Navy essentially in a couple of days. but I was surprised to see that NATO, while they agree that it was a very important thing to do, they agree fully. Nobody said, oh, you shouldn't do it. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month of when we had the B-2 bombers bomb the nuclear potential. I call it the nuclear dust. So I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test.
So, Enzo, at the backstage of the show, I said to you, hey, at first I was going to say NATO's not helping. I have breaking news that they are going to be helping now. They see the importance. I said, oh, that's a win. You said, no, it's not. So tell me why it's not a win.
So this is something that I've been holding on to way before I was a Trump supporter, way before I was a voter entirely, back in my teens. Because I am somebody that pays attention to history, understands why NATO was created. It was to deter the Soviets. The Soviets collapsed in 91. There's no reason to have NATO anymore. NATO has done nothing for the United States, has not helped out the United States in any significant way, where we have gone out of our way to help NATO in every little conflict that they put themselves in. The biggest one would be Serbia, Kosovo, where NATO troops basically did fuck all, and the United States did the entire bombardment while they just sat there. And the global war on terror, they really brought nothing to the fucking table there either. They tried to condemn us with the United Nations in 2003 for going into Iraq. No, they don't bring anything to the table. And now that they want to save face, to come into this to protect their own assets at the end of the day. And all Donald Trump said was, hey, you want this oil to flow out of the straits? Escort your ships. That's it. And the majority of it is because of Europe, because they've been overrun by the Muslim population. They don't want to piss people off and have attacks happen in their country. That's basically what this all just runs down to. It's just saving face, because now Donald Trump tested them. I'm glad he tested them. And I still want him to pull us out of NATO altogether. And at this point, I wouldn't mind watching Russia go all the way to the gates of fucking Britain at this point. Let him fucking do it. Because without NATO, Europe is nothing. Europe will fall in weeks. I don't like Europe. I don't like the European countries at all. I think they're selfless. I think that this alliance that we put ourselves in with them has not benefited us in the slightest. And they need to understand that. When we're the biggest contributor to NATO, our troops are the biggest contributing force to NATO. When we say jump, you say how high at that point. We're the ones paying for all of your militaries. Everybody, they should get in fucking line. Or get out. That's it.
Ray, Joe Kent resigned this week. He is a Green Beret. Thank you for your service again. I can never say that enough. I will say that every day to service members. I actually had someone that served 22 years, and every day I told him when we were together, thank you for your service. But I mean, this week, poor Joe, he's been under attack. This is what he had to say, and I want to get your thoughts on what he had to say as well.
Iran on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon?
No, they weren't, 3 weeks ago when this started, and they weren't in June either. I mean, the Iranians have had a religious ruling, a fatwa, against actually developing a nuclear weapon since 2004. That's been in place since 2004. That's available in the public sphere. But then also we had no intelligence to indicate that fatwa was being disobeyed or it was on the cusp of being lifted. The Iranian strategy, it's actually pretty pragmatic. The Iranians are obviously aware of what's taking place in their region, and their strategy was to not completely abandon their nuclear program, because they saw what happened to Muammar Gaddafi in Libya when he said, hey, I've got no more nukes. I'll do what you say. I'll give up my nukes.
And we gave him the Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah, we regime changed him, and he was executed by his own people in the most horrific way.
Oh, sodomized by a bayonet. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's that's the lesson I think that the entire region took from that when Hillary Clinton.
Unfortunately, that is what the neocon, neoliberal warmongers. That's the lesson that they showed everyone in the region. And then conversely, the Iranians also knew that if they came out and said, "Okay, we've got a nuke," whether they were bluffing or not, Saddam Hussein, Iraq right next door. So they kind of had
he hung. I think
he was hung by his own people. After a bloody war that's still essentially going on inside of Iraq. So the Iranians' position, when viewed from the lens of the region, was actually fairly pragmatic. They were preventing, themselves from developing a bomb, but they still wanted the ability. They wanted the ability to enrich. They wanted the ability to have some components so that they weren't completely stripped of it. And when we always assessed that they were either several months or a year, 2 years away from actually being able to develop a nuclear weapon. And that's not because the Iranians are stupid people. I think we can tell right now that the Iranians are anything but stupid. They had the ability, I think, that the brain power to actually develop one.
So, Gray, some reports that I heard, they were 9 years away from developing one. You served in the Middle East. Did you see any of our NATO allies there? What's your thoughts on all of the things you've heard tonight? Do you think we should get out of NATO? Do you think, based on what you're hearing, that we should have went into Iran? As someone that actually served in Iraq, what's your thoughts?
I saw some NATO allies there, and you see the Air Force, you see the Marines, you see different people. But as far as the nuclear stuff, Netanyahu himself came out and said that there was no enriched materials for a nuclear nuke. So he himself comes out and says this right after Joe Kent comes out. Joe Kent gets investigated by the FBI right after he says this stuff about Iran. And to your point about what's going on with NATO, Trump is blaming Israel right now for I'm pretty sure you're gonna play the tweet, but he's blaming Israel right now. So
you can read it. You have it?
No, I don't have it, but I'm just saying that it seems to be unanimous. Even Trump himself is being critical of Israel. So it seems to be like Trump's trying to find an off-ramp in this Iran war.
Yeah, I have the video of what he said. I'll play that now, and you can continue on with your response if you like. 1 second.
Can I add something to the
Sure, 1 second. Let me play the Trump what he said about Netanyahu today.
President, you talked to Prime Minister Netanyahu about attacking the oil and gas fields.
Yeah, I did. I told him don't do that, and he won't do that. We didn't discuss. We do. We're independent, but get along great. It's coordinated, but on occasion he'll do something, and if I don't like it, and so we're not doing that anymore.
And the last one, if I
Okay, go ahead, Enzo. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good. The entire thing with Joe Kent, thank you for your service, Joe Kent. You serve this nation where other people wouldn't. That's great. My thing is with Joe Kent, the internet is forever. You can't say something on the internet less than this one 6 years ago now, and then a couple of the other ones that I read are less than a year ago, 2 years ago. This one I just love. The war with Iran, the war with Iran talk is very black and white in a gray world. Iran has been at war with the United States since 1979. The killing of Soleimani is the first decisive act we've taken against the Iranian terror since the 1980s. All I got to say is this. We know his wife was in with Code Pink and a few other of NGOs. And the first thing you do is once you resign and start blaming Israel for this entire attack is run to Tucker Carlson. Qatar Tuckerson. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Well, it's interesting to me, Enzo. Tucker Carlson was like worshipped by the right for years. Come on, am I lying? 4 years. He talked down on black people. He said all sorts of crazy stuff. And all of a sudden now the right doesn't like him. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I'm happy that the Nick Fuentes is the Tucker Carlson, the Candace Owens, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Megyn Kellys, the over dramatic Trump supporters that will go down with the ship with Trump is finally being exposed for who they really are. My thing is this: if you're over eccentric about somebody that you make it your entire personality, you're fake. You're fake. That's not really who you are. You're doing it for your benefit. Nick was to gain prominence. Tucker was to get his own to get out of his own shadow after being fucking canned by Fox. Marjorie Taylor Greene to get fucking benefits for life for being in Congress. I could go through the list of these people. Candace,
I never liked Candace Owens. I could not stand her. But what I'm saying is when she was dogging out black people, when she was saying all sorts of bullshit. And we, Kamal, me, Gray, we were on the side of, we know she was full of it. People loved her. People loved her. They loved when she was saying all the black hateful stuff. That's all I'm saying. It's
I get what you're
interesting to
saying.
me.
My thing is this: these people, I've never liked them. I like certain points that they've said it at one point, but I was never like, oh my god, these are the real Trump supporters. These are the real MAGA supporters. Blah 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 blah. Like these people are great. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut at least once. They said something that jived with somebody, and I think honestly, it's not that people are just abandoning ship because certain things that they're saying. I think people are just finally waking up to the bullshit that they're saying. The same exact way people are waking up to the bullshit that the Democrats are saying. It goes both ways.
So you just think it's it's the extreme sides people are getting sick of, basically.
Yeah, like they were the over eccentric, and in my eyes, like I said, people they look fake to me. They're not genuine in my eyes.
I'm gonna play the.
Have y'all heard the latest on Megyn Kelly? What she been talking about?
What happened to Megyn Kelly?
So she out here talking about her ex having a micro penis.
Megyn Kelly? The journalist?
Mm-hmm. Damn.
No, I ain't hear that.
Desperation.
Go ahead and play the clip, Gray. We're gonna switch gears. We're gonna have fun after this. We'll wrap up the NATO talk or the Iran talk. I'm over it.
Now blaming Israel for hitting the South Pars gas field in Iran and says that Israel, out of anger, hit South Pars and the US knew nothing about it. He then goes on to say no more attacks will be made by Israel targeting South Pars unless Iran once again attacks Qatar, in which case the United States will intervene and with or without the help of Israel will destroy the entirety of the South Pars gas field in Iran. And that Trump does not want to do this but will be forced to do so if Iran once again hits Qatar's LNG facilities. Iran, for context, hit the largest LNG export facility on earth in Qatar yesterday in retaliation of their South Pars gas field being hit, which spooked energy markets. Oil immediately hit above 100 and Donald Trump backed off. However, according to Israeli journalist Barak Ravid of Axios, he says that Donald Trump is lying, where he says, contrary to Trump's statements, senior Israeli and U.S. officials said that the United States had prior knowledge of the Israeli strike and even approved it in an attempt to pressure Iran. And after Iran retaliated by hitting Qatar's gas field, Trump is now backing off.
All right. Okay, guys, we're going to switch gears. We're going to have some fun. Piers Morgan rage quits during interview with Manosphere content creator Tiki Talkie. This was Gray's favorite.